Hello everyone, this is Ms. Bushra, a biology teacher from Zhyar English High School and Zhyar English Institute. Today is our first episode for recording the whole biology curriculum in English system. So let's start. The biology book, it's what we need to know about it. The first thing is that it's made of 2 units. That's what we need to know. The first part is all about system from chapter 1 to chapter 6. This is where we're going to start. And then we have from chapter 7 to 10, it's about genetics. Today's lesson is going to be the first section in chapter 1, which is about the human body plan. Since we're going to have a very long journey about talking about all the systems, we need to know some basic stuff about the human body and how it's organized into organs, tissues, and organ system. At the beginning of your life, you started off as one cell. This is what we hear. An egg fertilized with a sperm. Okay, by what? By fertilization. And created one cell known as zygote. So this is zygote. This is the first form you had as a human. One cell. How did one cell become this complicated? So cells develop, change shape, and increase in number by dividing and developing. Okay? We create embryo. Embryo becomes fetus after 3 months finished, and then this is how we got here. So the first human form that we had was during embryonic development. We took shape of a human during embryonic development. And then what is embryo exactly? It's a tiny ball of dividing cell. Didn't I say it's dividing and developing? So embryo is a tiny ball of this, and then it takes shape and creates tissues and organs to create the whole complex body of a human. Now, there is one thing that is a bit special about human development, is creating a feature called bilateral symmetry. If I'm going to break down this name for you, let me write it again. Bilateral symmetry. Bilateral symmetry comes from this. Bi means 2. Lateral means sides. Symmetry means same. So we got this name because we have 2 sides that are similar. When we're doing dissection, if you can see, if you cut a human like that, dissected like this, you won't get 2 similar sides. Nor if you do this. Any plane, it's only one way from the head to the toe. Then you have 2 similar sides at least from outside. This is what we call bilateral symmetry. But why do we study this so suddenly? See, you develop this feature during 3rd week of embryonic development, and it helps you to support organs and tissues and keep your body upright like that. If your body is not standing like that, then you won't have this shape, and your organs will not have a place to attach themselves to it. And bilateral symmetry is not only present in human, it's actually present in any vertebrate that you find. You can pick up only any animal that's called a vertebrate if they have a vertebral bone and they have a bilateral symmetry. There are other symmetries in the world, but of course this is the one we're caring about because these sections are all about human body. Again, let's repeat it. During 3rd week of embryonic development, this tiny embryo creates a shape. Why? Because it has a vertebrae. This feature called bilateral symmetry, 2 sides symmetrical. It supports body and keep it upright. That's what it means. Good. Now we know how the body is formed and how it's taking shape. Let's learn about the tissues that are created. Human body have 4 types of tissue. You cannot have the 3rd one. And tissue in general, how do you describe it and how Zhyar brings it? Is that it's a collection, a group, a bunch of cells, similar. This is your keyword. Similar in structure and work together. Okay? They work together to perform one function. That they are similar cells. working together. Then we have 4 types. We have muscle tissue, nervous tissue, epithelial, and connective. I'm going to give you, for each one of them, one feature that's going to describe it, and it's special for that type of tissue. And then that's how we're going to pick up and we're going to learn about them. The first one is muscle tissue. Any movement in the body, either it's the muscle itself, like your arm, or the muscle caused it. Like, for example, blood flows in your body and moves because heart is a muscle and it made it like that, okay? It made it move by pumping it. Good. So movement is all done by muscle. Another one, nervous tissue. Nervous tissue, you should remember it by electrical impulses. It creates electricity, okay, within your body. So this is specialized for this area. We're not talking about anything else. We're talking about generally this is specialized for this tissue. Good. So if I say electrical impulse, remind yourself of nervous system. Another one. These epithelial tissues, they are covering surfaces or inner parts, okay? And what makes them so special is that the cells don't have gaps between them. They're sewn together, like duraina, okay? So they're tightly packed. This is very important. Later we're going to learn why. Then, if you got a tissue that is not moving anything and not creating electrical impulse and not tightly packed, so we consider everything else within this one like a junk area, okay? It's called connective tissue. One thing about connective tissue is that it is most abundant. It means it's everywhere, you can find everywhere, and most diverse. There's so many types of it. That's how we know connective tissue. So this is a good start. I want you to look at the pictures and memorize them as well, because they're important. Okay, there you go. We start off with our first tissue, the muscle tissue. Remind ourselves that muscle tissue is the one that moves, okay? Moves any part of your body or any substance in your body, pushes them. So why does it do that? Because it contracts, just like a spring. It can contract and it can expand. This contraction, you can see it clearly in the long type of cells that they have. This is a muscle cell. When they contract, they bulge in the middle and become shorter, like this. So contraction is equivalent of saying shorter. It becomes shorter. In general, it's like this. Okay? Then you have opposite of contraction, you write this, relaxation, which is elongating. Okay? Where can we find these tissue? It could be anywhere, from your facial expression, from your hand movement, from anything that's moving in your body, and it's written here. And how is this conducted or happen? It's because you have groups of muscle, not only one. They're groups and they work together in order to move body parts. However, we said we have 4 types of tissue, but we have 3 types of muscle. Remember these numbers, I want you to memorize it. 4 types of tissue, 3 types of muscle. So the 3 types of muscle, the one type of muscle that we know about it, like for example when you flex your arm, is the skeletal muscle, because it's mostly connected to bone. As for the second type, it is a VIP type, only for one organ. Please write this as a note. Only one organ have it. We call it cardiac muscle. Cardiac means heart. That means the muscle of the heart. That's what it means. Then you have smooth muscle. Tamam? What do we have here? A smooth muscle. However, how do we separate it? And for example, when I'm moving my arm, how do I know? Did I use like a skeletal muscle? Like it's easier probably because you have bone, but what about your eyelid? You can like move it. See, anything you consciously control it by your own will, it's a skeletal muscle. So we call it voluntary. That's you, okay? Voluntary. It means you consciously control it. The other 2 are both involuntary. Voluntary. Got it? It's involuntary. Involuntary, done. Now, if you talk about it like, Miss, how can I separate between two involuntaries if both they have the same feature? It's because one of them is only for one organ. Anything else that you can't control it, it's considered as involuntary smooth muscle. For instance, food moves down your digestive tract. Is it a heart? No, heart not is part of digestive tract. So it must be smooth muscle since you don't control that once it's in your gut. That's how we learn about it. It's easy. So, where do you find skeletal muscle? In your bones, trunk, limbs, okay, connected to your bones, trunk, limbs, and face. Then smooth muscle, where do you find it? Anywhere you cannot control it consciously. And cardiac muscle, we have only one example, exclusive VIP, is the heart. This is the muscle tissue. As for nervous tissue is made of a very, very special type of cells. These cells are creating electricity and able to conduct it, yani move it for long distances. That's why their shape is accommodating for this. The shape is helping with it. Like this, look. It has a very, very long thing here on this side. We called axon. This is where we're going to take care of it, like, and study more about it during chapter 4. But I want you to understand what's happening here. So this is the cell. It doesn't look like a normal cell that I drew like this. It must be special somehow, right? We call it neuron. Neuron is equivalent of saying nerve cell. Both of them are the same, by the way. Don't mix them up, saying this is something else. So a neuron looks like this. You can even draw it. Why does it have this? If you have an electricity station, if you want to take it to the houses, shouldn't you have a cable that takes the electricity? Same concept. The electricity, when it's created here, we need to conduct it to a specific area, and this long part called axon is going to take it for us. Hence the definition. It says, type of tissue contains cells that send and receive. Don't forget, they send it and they receive it. Okay? Message throughout the body we call neuron. Then I've played with the word and I brought neuron in the beginning. We're no longer saying it's a tissue. We're going to say it's a cell that is specialized to send and receive messages. Very nice. Now, transmit is a more scientific way of saying sending or like bringing it back and forth, both of them, okay? Because remember, when your nervous system works, everything in your body goes to your brain as an information. For instance, I touch myself here, like this. See? I tapped it. I feel it. I feel painful too because it's like it was a bit strong. So how did I know it was painful and I should stop, or where did I touch? Because electrical signal go from my arm to my brain. This is sending to brain. And then a response received by me, and I know that it's painful and withdrawing it. See? It's sending and receiving it. Now, some parts that you definitely find like a huge amount of this tissue is brain. Of course, mostly it's made of this. Spinal cord. And nerves, I usually refer to nerves as the cables, okay? Because if you remember the cells that I drew for you, let me show you. This one, we said this is axon. A bunch of these they become bundles together, one part, and they create these cables, and they go throughout the body. Do you see it? All these are nerves. They're the cables. They are the one sending everything from the brain to the rest of the body and everything from the body back to the brain. Then you have parts of sensory organs. Sensory organs are specialized areas where we can bring information back to the body and the brain. Okay? One area in specific is the retina. It's a layer within this part of the eye. Okay? It's made of nerve cells, especially that one. Okay? Good. Now, about nervous tissue. Nervous tissues have some roles. When I memorize function, I start with a verb. Starting with verb helps you to memorize it way faster, so do the same thing. See, nervous tissue senses changes. Yeah, a bit earlier I felt a bit hot, okay, because the AC was just starting working. How did I know the temperature was higher? Because I felt it. My skin sensories felt it. So sensing changes either from external or internal. Maybe you have a pain from your stomach. See, could be either way. So sensing change, and then interpreting. Interpreting. Interpreting means processing information. Yeah, I got the information, but if the brain doesn't know how to decipher it and decode it, then it has no use for me. So, interpreting these information, we got it, is also very important. It's the brain doing it. And then, not only that, we need to have a response. For instance, either I'm gonna change the AC voluntary by my choice, or involuntary, I start sweating. The body needs to regulate the temperature. Even if I don't respond, it's gonna try to do it itself by making me sweat. For instance, it's opposite. If I feel cold, I start shivering. So the body tries to process the information and make a response for it. Doesn't leave it like that. Again, what do we have? Sensing change, then interpreting it, processing the information, then creating a response. It could be voluntary or involuntary. This act of either giving it to voluntary and involuntary we call coordination of response. Remember, we have sense change, interpreting, response, and coordinating. I put it in the same layer because it could happen at the same time, not separate, like response happen and then it coordinate. No, it happens at the same time. Response should be coordinated. Very nice. This was about the nervous tissue. We're going to study more about it in chapter 4. As for epithelial tissue, we need this a lot, okay? So please pay attention. So epithelial tissue, of course, is a type of the 4 type of tissues, and it consists of layer of cells. The line, if you have a bag, the part that is from outside is covering. The part that is inside, we call lining. That's why it lines or cover internal and external surfaces of organs. You have a stomach, for example. This is stomach. On the outside, stomach is covered with a type of tissue. Okay, and from the inside, this part, it's also a covering. So we don't say cover and cover, we say cover and lining for the inside. Nice. See, I told you the first important thing about this type of tissue. They are tightly bound together. This tightly bound together gives them a feature, doesn't let anything seek outside. Yani, for example, when blood is within the vessels, there is a epithelial tissue so tight that the blood doesn't leak outside. That's why it's important. And that's why it creates a very good protective barrier. Doesn't let things pass through it easily, protects you from diseases and everything else. So it holds liquids, for instance. It says it has various thicknesses and arrangement. It means it has various layers and various shapes. Let's see, how do they look? You see this? The cells are all connected here. This is what we mean when we say tightly bound together. And this is a normal shape of a tissue of epithelial. Nucleus is obvious, the cells are close, and there's a basement membrane they're layering on. We don't mention this much, but I want you to know about it. Just for your note, if you're using my malzama or the handbook, you can buy it from Zhyar photocopy. And you can clearly see that some of my pictures doesn't have any description underneath it. That means that I've put it there for your information. But if you see descriptions like this one in these dotted boxes, it means that it is actually from the book. And you should study all the information from these boxes, by the way. Let's head back to where we started. Now, we have 3 important examples that we bring back a lot from the Wizari, and there's a lot of Wizari-based questions made by the teachers all about these, so we need to be very careful here. Now, if you see, this is blood vessel, This is, we're going to talk about it in chapter 2, okay? But this is the one from the book that they mentioned it. It says blood vessel have epithelial tissue from the inside. If this is the blood vessel, the inside here has epithelial tissue. And it says this epithelial tissue is a single flat layer. It looks like this. It's flat and it's a single layer, one layer only, done. Why is that? Because when things are passing to the other side, it's so easy. If you have like a thick one, it's not easy for diffusion to happen. If it was multiple layer, again, not something helpful for this task. So this is helping the task. Very nice. So inside the blood vessel, we have a single layer of flat epithelial tissue helping passing materials easily from the sides. As for trachea, trachea is also called windpipe. Windpipe is the airway. Now, I sense that many students don't know the difference between trachea and esophagus. Trachea and esophagus are two tubes right next to each other in your throat. So, like after your throat, it comes these. So, in the beginning, if you feel it, you have bumps at the here, and it's trachea. And it's always open. But behind it is where the food goes. We call it esophagus. All right? So trachea is a cilia-bearing, has cilia-bearing and mucus-secreting cells. What is cilia-bearing and mucus-secreting? If we have trachea, this is where trachea is, like connected to the lungs. And this is for chapter 6, just as a reminder. Okay? And I bring the wall of it and I look at it. I will see that there are cells like this. They have tiny structures on them that looks like hair. And then every now and then, I have a specialized type of cell here. Okay? This one creates mucus. Mucus. Mucus is the sticky material in your airway. Sometimes you feel it, it's in your nose, and when you're like sick, you can like see it because it comes out with a coughing. It's sticky and a yellowish color. This is called mucus. But then these cells are called the cilia bearing. So this is cilia bearing. We talked about it, have hair-like structures, and then we have mucus secreting. Secreting means releasing it and making it. There's the mucus. It's making a layer over top of it. Okay? These are cilia, cells called cilia bearing. They are like brooming, okay? They're like swiping anything caught by the mucus. So mucus is sticky like a glue. It traps particles of dust, of like even infections, agents, bacteria, anything. But then the cilia doesn't let it go down into the lung and push it upward like this. So it's made of cilia bearing and mucus secreting. This is part of epithelial. Why do we need that? To trap particles inhaled so that it doesn't go to the lung. Again, we have like a flat single layer here, and then we have cilia bearing and mucus in trachea. As for the body, the skin is the most obvious type of epithelial. See, if your skin was not tightly bound, any type of bacteria or dust or anything that was harmful would go inside your body, into your sensitive tissues. But skin not only this, but it's also creating a dead surface for us, a dead layer. So even if it scratches or something cutting through it, unless it's too deep, you don't feel it. That's a way of protecting it from our outside world. That's why it's a most easily type of epithelial tissue seen. You have to memorize this. It's a keyword. It is dead. The only dead cells you have, it's on the skin. It's on the surface of the skin. And if you can see, it's multiple layers. Multiple layers. And instead of some multiple layers, we could say sheets. Sheets. Okay? What did we have? Dead cells, multiple layers or sheets, and they are flat. So I can consider like this. The cells are flat And of course there's a bunch of them that are dead on top of it, and we know that because like usually the girls are like scrubbing or exfoliating their skin. This is the dead cells that's going off. So these were the three examples of epithelial tissue, one in the blood vessel, another in trachea, and lastly your skin, which is made of dead sheets of flat cells. Okay, sheets mean multiple layer. Our last type of tissue, I call this the junk area because everything else is dumped into this tissue type. So connective tissue, like we said, most abundant, most diverse. It has three types of function. The three type of function is binding things together, supporting. Support could be in any way. It could be giving them food, oxygen, or could be just tying them together or like cushioning them to protect them from any like shock from the outside. And protection. And we know mostly what is protecting us. Like for example, skull protecting. See? It's so diverse. We're going to talk about it. Since we talked about protection, bone is the one protecting it. So obviously bone is a type of connective tissue. Cartilage, you know, Zaha, you can like touch it and it's a bit like more flexible and you can move it than your bone. This is cartilage. Okay, tendon, we're going to talk about tendon soon. Fat and blood. See, it says these cells are characterized by having large amount of intracellular material. What is that supposed to mean? See, unlike the epithelial, the cells of the connective tissue are all separated like that. So in between, we have something that is filling the space. That is made of a material, of a substance. Since it's between cells, we call it, let me change the color, intracellular substance. So this intracellular substance comes in three forms. One, it could be solid. If you remind yourself, you have something solid in your body, bone. It could be semi-solid. It means like it's partially solid but not entirely, like your cartilage. Okay, good. It could be semi-solid and fibrous, like it creates a stitchy material like tendon, which is, write this as a note, binding muscle to bone. We're going to study this in the next few sections, and I want you to remember it. Tendon is a connective tissue binding muscle to bone. Good. And then it could be a liquid. One example of it is blood. Blood is a connective tissue. See, blood is a tissue. A connective tissue that is made of a liquid substance in between the cells. Since we're saying substance, shouldn't we name it? So we call this substance matrix. What do you call it? We call it matrix. Again, these are tissues that have large spaces between them. Embedded يعني نقم بوا. They're embedded, sunken inside it. Large amounts of intracellular substance called matrix. Like we said, matrix could be solid like bone, could be semi-solid like cartilage, tendon, and fat, could be liquid like blood. There it is, all three of them. This is cartilage, this is bone, blood cells that are embedded in the liquid. So what makes these matrix so different from each other? It's their consistency of their calcium. Calcium, if you remember it, like the eggshells, they're hard, and they say if you eat it, your bones are going to be stronger. So the more calcium we have, the harder it gets. Remind yourself, this has the highest amount of calcium, this has the lowest amount of calcium. Let's see. Different matrix give you different examples. Bone is creating crystalline. Anything crystalline means very hard, okay? Matrix because of the calcium. Cartilage, tendon, and even fat is like a bit jiggly, but it's friends with these because semi-solid, there's something in between. It could have in any form of these. And it could be fibers as well because we have so many fibers between the cells, make them stretchy or like give them these semi-solid shapes. Blood is suspended in a liquid matrix. We said that. Suspended yani floating inside it, okay? The blood cells. So this was it for our tissue, and we're going to be back again for the rest of the sections, and we're going to continue. Have a nice day.